All right, y'all. What's going on? It is your boy Easy Bake Oven. What's up, y'all? So today it's a little different. All right. Now, yeah, I used to hear ads run through my stuff for other people. All right. This is probably the first real time the ad is for me. All right. So PSA Prodigy Sport Advantage Stations has expanded far beyond just the podcast. It is now a writing service. All right. And at that, a ghostwriting service. So we do it anonymously and take care of your needs. All right. Homework assistant, product and profile descriptions, grant writing, resumes, cover letters, templates, books, ghostwriter book too. Anything you can think of, articles, all that good stuff. PSA the Ghostwriter Solution can do it. So go over to PSAthepodcast.com and you can see all the services there with all their descriptions. Okay, because I know I missed some. And also you can reach out to me at theprodigyperspective@gmail.com and we can take care of all of that for you too. Peace. Yo. I'm on mic all the way over here, y'all. I'm tripping. What's going on? What's today? It's another third. Well, it's another Thursday, and we keeping the ball rolling, keeping episodes going. Thank y'all for the love last week. The first episode was me, then the second two episodes was some big, pretty high profile people, and then last week's episode was somebody who's upcoming. But again, I told y'all like I'm not going to stop putting people on my stuff who are upcoming like me or who are above me or who are beneath me, because I feel like, and when I say beneath me, I don't mean like I'm better than them, but just as far as their stuff is still, versus a person like me and my boy last week who already, kind of established. But this week is another, I feel like, person that is well established, but we're going to get into that in a minute. But I think that, sometimes we need episodes like this where when it comes to making the right choice, which, if when at the schools I'll be working there, whenever the kids be doing something stupid or they about to do something stupid, I always be like, hey, make the right choice. So hopefully this podcast serves as that. And this is especially with today's episode, which I think is good because it centers around limitations, because we all have them. We've all been limited in some way. But in the same breath, the purpose of this episode is just kind of show like limitations aren't the end all be all. That makes sense. All right. So before I get into all that, let me get into this week's meme. The meme reads, limitations. We've decided we don't know her. All right. Inspiration for this week. Actually, funny because I'm a little, but this week is funny. So this first inspiration comes from one quote by Les Brown, and it says, life has no limitations except the ones you make. So I want to challenge that, and I'm going to challenge that a little later. So be prepared for that. And also, all limitations are self-imposed. That's anonymous. Nice little quote. We're going to challenge that later too. And then the infamous, you seen that meme where it be like, if it's like a video or like a picture of like Mariah Carey, and she be like, I don't know her. And then if you've seen the backstory behind it, that's actually wow. I'm gonna get in that in a minute too. But let's get into the other segment real quick. Happy hour. All right, so for my happy hour, I got my fresh water. Hopefully that's what some of y'all drinking, because a lot of people be needing. A lot of people I've learned at this big age don't drink water. Like some of us, if not 30, pushing 30. And that's wild to me. Like I know old people, and when I say old people, I mean like my age and older, who be like, oh, I just don't like how it tastes. That's wild. That's crazy to me. Like, what is wrong with who raised you? Clearly you wasn't raised right. I don't care. I'm judging. I'm definitely judging. I don't care. You wasn't raised right. To say that water is nasty, you don't like how it tastes. Like, it's kind of like vegetables. Like, even with me, just based on how I was raised, like, even if I don't, for whatever meal I got, I don't want to eat no vegetables with it, just for whatever reason, right? I'ma just like do what like I do when I was a kid. Like, I'm just gonna scarf them down real quick and then they over with. Most kids didn't learn. I learned that young. Just scarf them down, it'll be over with. You done. I know kids that said they used to be sitting at the table for hours trying to push peas back and forth. It ain't never that real. Just eat it. It'll be over. That wasn't a part of the script though. I do want to really quick get into the whole the Mariah Carey thing. So the backstory behind that, for those that don't know, was she was asked in an interview years ago about different people, and then they asked her about Jennifer Lopez, and she said, "I don't know her." So then it became some big old ordeal, and basically of her trying to be petty, but she claimed she wasn't, but she probably was, knowing her. But it's just funny because I like how we saying with our limitations, for especially with correlating with the mean, we saying like limitations are we don't know who that is. Like we're not letting that stop us. We're not letting that throw us off. And it's the same way she didn't let that question throw her off about Jennifer Lopez. She said, I don't know her. So she didn't let that stop nothing. I mean, you can be petty with that too, which a lot of people do, especially when you know y'all be falling out with all y'all friends, and the first thing when somebody asks about me, you be like, "Who? Who is that? What you talking about? I don't know what it is." I've seen that. I've seen it a few times. Probably done it before too, but I don't do it like that now. I just act like now what I do. That's the growth in me. You had asked me this season 2, I would have said that, but season 7, I'm gonna be like people bring up people I don't care for no more. Or we didn't fell out. I don't never tell people we don't talk. They always tell the people. I never tell nobody. I just be like, oh, I ain't seen them in a minute. That's it. I don't say it with no attitude. I don't be petty. Oh yeah, I ain't heard from them. Oh, I've been busy. They be doing this, doing that. But they'll ask me why we fell out, but I didn't tell them. Something else along with that. I just want to kind of rant about something. So recently, I got this great mic right here. All the podcasters use it, right? And it was a suggestion made by one of my homeboys, and he was listening to my podcast, and he likes the content. He was asking what kind of mic I had, so I told him, and he was like, he had suggested another mic, and his reason for it was he was just saying your content is great, but he said it without saying it, and y'all, he wasn't being shady, so this ain't that, but he made the comment of basically saying it could sound better. Now with that, I learned recently, which honestly, I'm glad he made that observation. But I learned recently that you know it's the StreamYard app. That's how you seeing me now. It's the app through StreamYard is why. Because like if I did just the audio with this mic, it would sound amazing. So that pushed me into what's the word I'm looking for? Like adjust some things, which I don't have no problem with that. But with that, I do want to say this. Even though his was we taking it and we receive it and it's effective and it was needed, I want to go into the rant real quick about you can't please everybody. So with that, right? So now there was a time where I had terrible audio, and the visuals wasn't there, and people would say, you need this, or you should do this, you should do this, you need this, right? Now at this point, I'm gonna do what's best works for me. Some things, as always, can be updated, upgraded, all that good stuff. But a lot of times, keep in mind you can't please everybody. And a lot of times people want you, like I remember, and people to this day still would tell me, like, oh, your podcast is great, but you need music. No, I don't. If you listen to a lot of podcasts, not a lot of them have music. Like, of course, I have my sound effects and stuff, and I got my intro and my outro, but just music through the whole thing, I just feel like for me, it's just a lot. Now, if you do it on your podcast, great. But I just don't think for me that will work. I mean, it might work, but it's a lot. And as I stated, whenever I research something, and I suggest that for anybody, don't look at the people like you. Look at the people who winning the awards, who's up at the top, because clearly they know what they're doing. And if they get successful and they ain't necessarily doing that, then you could do that too. Like, for example, I don't know too many podcasts that's like big and popping that have music like that. So if they ain't got it, they don't need it. I don't need it. You got to think like the best to be the best. But all right, y'all, that's enough of my rant today. I got a great guest, and this has been a long time coming. We've been putting it off, so let me go ahead and introduce her. What's going on?
Hey, what's going on?
So, y'all, I already asked, but I'm gonna ask again on camera because I'm petty. It looked like she's laying in the bed.
I'm not in the bed. I'm in a chair, a big
But
chair. I'm
that's
just
that's a
comfortable.
nice chair, though. That's the funny thing.
Yeah.
All right, so obviously the visual can see you, but for my audio only people, tell the people what's your name, where you from, and where you live now.
My name is Mandii Brown. I am from Chicago, but I currently live in Nashville.
All right, so now Chicago, baby. How did you go from Chicago to Nashville?
A 6.5 hour drive. I would travel back and forth during the pandemic in 2020 while I was in my master's program. I got to be hybrid, so either I had to be on campus or I can do it online. And my school is actually in Alabama, but the person I was dating at the time was in Tennessee. So instead of just going straight to Alabama, I would just stay here. And it worked out to where my job transferred me down here. Finding a house down here was super duper easy, and I just got rooted within like 6 months.
Oh, for real? Well, that's good
Yeah.
news for people who are looking for a house because some people be thinking it take years to find a house, but I'm finding out it really don't.
No, if you want one, you can definitely hop on one for sure.
So tell the people who don't know, what do you do for a living?
What don't I do is honestly
Mhm.
the real question. um, Currently, right now, I am the cognitive behavior specialist at the men's and women's maximum security prison for the state of Tennessee. And I'm also a counselor at a substance abuse clinic as well.
Okay. All right. So now, with that, do you, and
Mhm.
it's kind of a cliche question because it's about limitations, but working at a prison, right?
Yeah.
So look at how you look. Do you feel limited off rip? Like, like, did you feel like you maybe have to do a little more to get like respect in that area?
Mm-mm,
Really? Why is
not at
that?
all. Um, how prison is set up, when you treat people like they're human, because that is an inhumane environment, they respect you off the rip. And especially when you don't throw their charges in their face, you actually listen to them, um, and actually work with them and not against them. It's easy to gain respect. Now, if you be an asshole, you gonna get cut. So you're in the
Yeah.
wrong environment for sure.
All right. Well, that's good news to know because I wouldn't have known. I looked at it kind of like a school, with like even like with education, like when you going
Hmm.
around and you're in charge of something or you running something, you kind of can't really show weakness at first because it's like you got to build that reputation up first and then kind of, But okay, that's good to know. All right, so now I got a few words I want to ask you. And I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to mind.
All right.
All right, so when you hear the word weakness, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
My knees.
Okay. When you hear the word, that's funny. When you hear the word impact, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Mm, like the feeling that comes behind it. So say like a car accident, the impact of it.
All right. And when you hear the word limitation, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Non-existent.
Okay. All right. So the definition of weakness is the state or condition of lacking strength. The definition of impact is having a strong effect on someone or something.
Mm,
And then limitation, a limiting rule or circumstance, a restriction. Okay, I
mhm.
feel like they was probably, in the ballpark as far as that work. That first one, I don't know, but the rest of them, you was right in the
Look, I
ballpark.
don't have the strongest knees, okay? So as soon as you said that, ooh, I got some weak knees.
All right, now let's move into my other segment. What we here for? What does this
Mhm.
have to do with mental health? So before we get into the real hoopla of it all, let me ask you, tell me about your background and how you became into mental health and how you became like a counselor.
Originally, I was an educator. I was an academic advisor for the charter schools in Chicago, and then I switched to becoming a world history teacher for middle school at a low income school. And the more I interacted with kids, the more I realized like there's a gap in between us, not like as like student teacher, or it was more so like adult to child, and I didn't know why. And then the more I connect with them, the more I tried to connect with their parents, and I saw there was a gap between them, and it just like kind of continued. And so I switched from teaching to social working, And so it's like a humongous gap in the community. And I was wondering why there were so many people like on welfare or even abusing the system when it kind of wasn't needed at the time. Now, go for it. But before, a lot of DCS, DHS, all you got to do. Okay. But before, up there, it was no point, and I realized people were comfortable of having a certain mindset. So I wanted to dig deeper and deeper. And so I was like, let me like go into mental health. So I went back to school and got my master's in clinical mental health counseling. And the more I would dive into it, the more I realized there were a lot of underlying issues that we as a people thought were normal that wasn't normal, even within our family, that I had to like figure out for myself and address before I could help anybody else. And so that kind of just grew and grew and grew to where I help multiple people, but now it's more so I'm focusing on like the incarcerated population right now.
Okay. So with that, so you talk about
Mhm.
incarceration and all that good stuff. So now that you're there, first of all, I gotta ask a funny question, but it's petty. Do you, since you left education, are you
Mhm.
upset you don't get your summers off no more?
Yes. I miss that aspect, but I don't miss the inconsiderate students, the fighting with the students, get them to do work, the lack of school supplies. Like I had to make my own budget out of my paychecks to fund my classroom.
Mm.
Um, the gap with parents, arguing with them, and me working at one of the ghetto schools in Chicago, them parents will fight teachers, slash the tires, all that stuff. So I was like, I feel like I low key dodged the bullet because I get more benefits and better pay and contracts as like working for the state and stuff. So I don't gotta deal with nobody.
Well, I mean, that's definitely true because, our principal, he decided he's a fill-in actually because our original principal, she quit. So they
Mhm.
moved the dean up basically. And they took our computers because, now because of COVID, the testing is on computers.
Right.
So with me being the interventionist slash the technology teacher for middle school, they decided to take middle school's laptops and they said we got to go back to old school and having them doing stuff on paper, which
Scan
is
trials?
no, not the test, but like just in general,
Okay.
like work on papers. But I'm like, we didn't move out. You know what I'm saying? It's a different world
Mhm.
now, and you
Yeah.
doing that to be petty. It was just like you hurting them, not us. But then on top of that,
Mhm.
the school I work at is about to close, so yeah, it's a lot going on.
They're making a poor statement before they shut y'all down, like to the fullest.
All I know is May 26th, really 25th, but May
Mhm.
26th is we up. So, can you discuss some of the challenges you face in your work as a counselor? We talked about teaching already, but especially in regards, because you already mentioned earlier, which I don't know if we did on purpose, you had education with limited resources, and we talking about
Yeah.
limitations. So, any limited resources in your field now, and with any stigma, anything?
Um, yes, because I'm going into an environment that's meant to give you less. Naturally, I have to do what I can work with or get an approved memo to bring in anything extra. So, biggest limitation right now that I have is creating a safe space and also like adequate heat and AC.
Mm.
Like our winters were cold, really cold, and it was took weeks to get the heat on. And then now it's getting hot, and we got a rotating fan in the classroom.
That's terrible.
Yes.
So how do you like make it work? Do you like dress like when it's hot out? Do you dress less, or like when it's cold? Was you wearing coats in your office? Like what was you doing?
Yeah, I mean, I brought a space heater for one. Definitely wore a coat and a sweater, but to make it even because a lot of them didn't have boots, didn't have the extra jackets, hats and stuff. I just wore a sweater and thug it out with them. I wanted to make like an even play field. I don't want to make it like, oh well, I'm warm, and y'all cold, so suck it up type thing because that's the worst.
Nah, for it be like that though. Well, at least
Mhm.
they made it work. As we of course, we hope it don't stay like that. But yeah.
The state, they're not giving us no money.
Well, with that, that's another limitation.
Limitation.
And like, do you feel that? Well, first of all, and we don't get deeper into it, but just from the
Mhm.
list of what we heard already, do you feel like you're able to? Do you feel like, in a sense, you have a like a spirit of resilience almost?
Yeah, I can adapt to any environment and try to make it better on my own to where it's conducive to everybody. That's why I said, like, I don't feel like, even though they're giving me limits, I'm not accepting them. So there is no limit. Like, okay, I don't have no heat, cool. We gonna thug it out and we still get the job done. People are still growing in the space that we create. There's no AC, cool. We gonna make paper fans, had a little fan rotating, but it's still not stopping nothing. So I mean, you're tossing something restrictive my way, but I'm always gonna try to find a way around it.
Absolutely. All right, so I got some studies. So a Tao study
Hmm.
published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin in 2014 stated that people who believed that their abilities were fixed, i.e., they had a fixed mindset, were less likely to take on new challenges and had lower levels of achievement compared to those who believe their abilities can be developed, i.e., the growth mindset. And then a similar study published in the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology in 2018 found that when people were led to believe that their abilities were limited by receiving negative feedback for others, they were more likely to give up on tasks and had lower levels of performance compared to those who were not given such feedback. So when it talks about that and being and you obviously have shown already, we're gonna get into some more stuff, but you shown already that you can kind of bounce back, come back from anything. Were you ever in an environment or grew up in an environment or dated anybody who maybe made you feel as though you couldn't do something, you wasn't good enough? Oh, like, and then the easy one, the soft one people do. Oh, I mean, yeah, you could do that, but I think you should try do this. Anything like that?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. My whole life. What story you want?
Well, look, we're gonna open up more into it. So we got the short answer. We're gonna get the long answer in a minute.
Okay.
And then it says, as one blog on the post explains, when we limit ourselves and believe in our limitations, it can take a toll on our mental health. It can cause us to feel depressed, anxious, and stuck. It can prevent us from reaching our full potential and living the life that we want. Now, we live in a world, what's my boy name who sang Living Your Best Life? What's the
Duval. Lil
Lil
Duval.
Duval?
Mhm.
Jocelyn Hernandez did it.
Whew.
Then live your best life. Do it like it's your B day. I did have an episode, I think it was last season, the season before, and I was like, you can't do it like it's your B day every day. But in a sense, why not? Why can't you
Right.
live your best life and go against the grain and do what's best for you? I feel like.
Mhm.
And can you honestly say at this point in time you are doing what's best for you and feel good about
Yes, I am. I'm choosing not to live for any other human being that pays bills like I do. I need to live for myself, and that's where self gratification comes from. So yeah.
it? Now let me ask you this. So you a little exotic. So, you grew up. Tell us about your childhood experiences and including growing up as an Afro-Latina on the south side of Chicago.
We had to, well, I'm the darkest out of all my siblings, so naturally, already right there, too dark to be Hispanic, and then the black side, like they're not gonna accept you anyway. So I kind of have to find like a nice middle ground, be around which family is real conducive to both sides, not just making you pick one race over another. But growing up on the south side was definitely like the worst. We hop from house to house every 2 years, switch schools, changing friends, parents bickering consistently, gun violence, you name it. So really had all the odds against me growing up.
Okay. And so Afro-Latina in south side
Mhm.
Chicago, how many of them were of like, yeah, how I want to word this? How many Afro-Latinos in general, Latinos was in the South Side of Chicago at that time?
It was a bunch of us, but it's rare to find anybody of my complexion.
Yeah, and that's typically the issue I hear a lot of times in those
Yeah.
situations because it's like the black people be like, "Oh, you one of them," and the other ones they be like, "You too dark."
Yep.
Okay, so now after you talked about in your kind of your story, you do your research on people
Mhm.
and talk about observing your father's struggles, and this led you to pursue a career in mental health. Can you
Yeah.
share with us as much as little as you would like about that?
Um, my dad is like my superhero and also the villain at the same time. Crazy.
Anti-hero.
There we go. Anti-hero. He showed me that he used to work for Chicago Police Department. And so no matter like all the sports and stuff that we did, he would be on the clock, drive in the car across town, come watch us run track, do football, cheerleading, you name it. And so he showed me like you can make time for whatever you want to do as a father. He was always helping us with homework, taught us self defense, taught us our right. Um, we'll wake up in the middle of the night, have like ice cream and little meals and stuff. So like my dad was really like my first like best friend. But on
Mm,
the flip side, he never showed me his seasons and how to see a man in other ways outside of just consistently being strong. And so I've never seen my dad cry. I've never seen him sad. I've never seen him stress over bills. I would hear it, but he would never show it. And if he would talk about it, it would never be in the same space. And so honestly, it's I turned like 2021. And so I was like, ah, snap. I was like, where is this coming from? So I told him, like, I wish you were more vulnerable as a man in a lot of ways because then it would have showed me early on to accept men in all their stages, to how to love a man properly, not just the usual cook, clean, and do womanly duties. Like, no, I need to see my partner in every way and accept them. And instead, when I first had my first emotional partner, like the tears, the crying, and emotional side, I'm like, bro, you a punk. Like, what's wrong with you? And so when I got out of that relationship, and I was young too, and took a step back and finally saw my dad having those moments and seeing like his anxiety, depression, his anger, like how he would act with people that would trigger certain things. And I'm like, well, damn,
yeah,
I wish I would have seen this sooner and knew
right.
it was normal for y'all to have these type of thoughts and everything, even down to being like suicidal and not feeling worthy. So now that I've seen it after that age, I've been like incorporating it into like all my relationships. Like, okay, how I treat my brother, how I treat my guy best friends, and how I treat clients. Like, it's normal to have this stuff. That doesn't make you any less of a man or anything. It's completely normal. You just have to have better emotional regulation.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good. I mean, and it's a lot of times, and see, you kind of like I feel like the honest version because a lot of times women will be like, "Oh, I want to see my man in every season," then they get him in every season. Now they're making TikToks about him or throwing
Right.
finding memes to put in their story. So
Look, I was guilty of that from like 18 to 21
that's age
with
appropriate though.
right, because I didn't know. Like, you don't show it in high school, y'all be thuggish ruggish. Like,
Man.
and then college wise, y'all be in your whole phase, so you really don't show it. You mask it up with weed, look good, women. So when I finally saw it, what the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? But in my last relationship, when I saw it more with him and him like crying a lot and stuff like that, and he would feel embarrassed. I'm like, it's okay. Like, it's okay that you're crying. It's okay you have these emotions. I'm not judging you.
Yeah.
Like, let it out, please, before it goes out the wrong way and you react differently to somebody else, because that's gonna be bad.
Definitely. So you have a platform. You say you do
Hmm.
everything, but you have a
Yeah.
platform called Well, What Happened Was.
Yep.
So can you give a brief description of what that is and how it came about?
Yeah. We took a mini break, but we're coming back next week.
Oh, perfect
The
time.
website, I know, right? I needed a real mental break. Um, the platform is a safe space for people to tell their stories. So in my sessions, I allow my clients not only to have like a narrative approach, but also write letters to let out like their most traumatic moments, happy moments, letters to their younger self, future self. And I incorporated that into the website. And so it actually worked out great because people were sending stories in consistently about what they were going through, connecting with other people. Also, there's a mental health tab to help you find a therapist in your area, some that I vetted for, halfway house, substance abuse help, all the hotlines, you name it. It's all on the website. And there's a chat box that's 24 hours that a lot of people actually use to help get services. They don't want to look on like Psychology Today and stuff like that. I'll do it for them.
Okay. Okay. And how did you come about with that? How did that even come up? Or like to get that
Um,
idea?
My godmom actually brought it up. I went through a really bad breakup and domestic situation to where like I was quiet for a while and I wasn't speaking to anybody, and she helped me get out of my back out of my shell, get regrounded. And she's like, never stay silent again. You need to have a voice for other people to have a voice. And so like I took it to heart. And originally the website was gonna be for my private practice. And I was like, skip it. I'm gonna make it for like the people. And
Yeah.
literally, like, as soon as I launched it, it had tons of stories like the first week.
Oh, okay. Wow. And that's
Yeah.
funny. And that's how right there, it was meant to be because for
Yeah.
you to have dropped it that first week and then you blew up, it was like,
I was like, oh snap.
right. So now we're waiting on it to come back.
Yeah, I took a nice break. I was focusing on you seen focusing on Zach and all those milestones and traveling a lot these last 2 months. And working in the prison these last couple weeks have been kind of rough. So I was like, let me just take a mental break and just get life back on track first before I dive back into all these stories. Because a lot of them are traumatic. Some people don't want to post them, they want them to be read and be validated. So it's like, okay, let's do this.
Right. All right. So now let's move into my other segment. I
Yeah.
challenge that. And basically, this segment is used to kind of go against what we're talking about, just to keep the conversation going and
Mhm.
to us always keep the narrative of I want to discuss both angles and always we can agree to disagree. So, when I think of limitations, it's two things I instantly think about. I'm gonna be honest.
Mhm.
So, the first one was COVID and how we couldn't do anything, and how I remember everybody cousin from the Pentagon said that they was gonna shut us down, and which they did.
Mhm.
But
Yep.
I don't know what was how the rumor about everybody stock up on toilet paper came about. Not food, but toilet paper. Um, I didn't understand that. But also, some people actually argue because we live in um, a freer world. I'll say that
Mhm.
some people may argue and could argue that relationships are limitations. Could you agree or disagree with that? And if so, why? Why not?
I could argue that some relationships do have limitations, just probably based off that partner and their views, and how they want you to be or mold you to be. So if you are not securing yourself and who you are and your identity, then yeah, expect a little oomph to come behind it.
I definitely agree. I don't think that that was my view in my younger days.
Hmm.
And here's the thing, and I say this respectfully, honestly, anybody listening. I think a lot of it was just that I saw a lot of bad ones, so I
Hmm.
felt like if this love, I don't want it because it's too much. Like
Hmm.
people will be on Instagram in love, and then the same homeboy get in the car and he crying like Makai Fife on Paid in Full. Y'all know what scene I'm talking about. And it was
That man
like,
felt it from his chest.
I'm like, don't get it twisted. Of course, you're gonna go through stuff, but it's just sometimes like y'all always into it. It's always this.
Hmm.
It's a lot. But of course, obviously, I feel like God's allowed me to see some great ones. So I've seen some great ones now, and I knew eventually my views would change. But for some years, I was outside, and that wasn't even like, and, And I wasn't even like hoeing. I just was like, I'm good.
Chilling. You was on
Yeah.
the curve.
And that's okay. Why do people think that that's a bad thing? Like people, I
It's
had
not a bad
friends
thing.
when it was like that for me. I
Mm,
had friends that used to be like, "Oh, you need a date. Why are you single?" You know. But I knew when it happened, it's gonna be like the perfect thing. Like the fireworks gonna go. It's gonna be all that. But let me ask you this too.
mm,
So you talk more about the incarcerated population and your
mm.
plans to create an all boys mental health center, right?
Yep.
Now, with that, because this is the challenge side, so we being petty, so
Mm.
we're gonna do how they do with Black Lives Matter and try to say all lives matter. So you saying all boys, well, why not girls too?
Because I love y'all ladies, but we're spoiled. We get everything we want. Okay, we get the food stamps, we get the WIC, we get the health care, we get actually better ways into halfway houses. The law kind of works in our favor for certain circumstances. Even when it comes to mental health and dental, like they won't offer it to men, they'll offer it to us.
Hmm.
Therefore, I feel like boys need the extra assistance, the reassurance, and everything that we're already gonna get anyway. Like whether we want it or not as women, we're gonna get it.
And then so that's good. That's a good answer actually. So now I'm gonna back don't ask the same question, but
Mm,
I'm gonna ask it with you doing it for the black and brown community. Obviously, I know why,
right.
but why not everybody?
Why everybody? Is America operating in that way? Like everything's gonna be for us? Like weren't we classified as three-fourths as a man? Right off the rip? Wasn't mental health not created for us? They said that we're poor, we're giving you food, we're giving you jobs, and giving you a roof over our heads. Why do you need mental health? And now we need it more than ever. Why not that be the focus?
Yeah, no, I agree.
So I mean,
I just wanted.
I knew I was gonna catch backlash from it initially when I talked about it, but I mean, I have a very strong community down here that is for it in this lovely red state. But
Mhm.
like, if I was fearful of it, I wouldn't do it. But I'm not scared. Like, people will start off saying something's black and then change it to multicultural. And how lovely that is, the focus needs to be on black people because we're always going to be the target in some shape, way, or form. We need not only mental health, but safe space to actually do sports. There are black boys that want to do cheerleading, black boys that are trying to find safe ways to come out the closet, black boys who are poor and don't want to say that they're poor, so they need help getting like clothes, haircuts, laundry service, all that stuff. Like, why not have that space for them? And not just black boys, but black and brown boys, obviously. Like, everyone, all people will get it, but we're always the demographic that's not going to have access to it.
No, for sure. I mean, I agree.
Yeah.
But again, I wanted to be said on camera. I wanted it to be said on a platform. So
Not
people
that I
act
love
like,
our people, but it ain't for y'all. Okay.
look, now, so in your work with mental health, obviously,
Mhm.
have you ever, now watch this, encountered a limitation or obstacle that made you question your ability to make a difference? And if so, how did you address it?
Yeah. I actually did recently. Um, 3 weeks ago, I had to let a client go because they kept relapsing. Like
Mm,
at the clinic we're at, we give out Suboxone and nerve medication, so it can be like Klonopin or something of that nature. And so you have to come in weekly for the first month to have counseling service and medicine to show like we got a treatment plan, you're gonna be steady. And if you continue to relapse, we give you warnings until like the third time, like, all right, now we need to buckle down. And so this person, it would be like 2 weeks of like doing good and great, and then another wall, like
mhm.
meth, fentanyl, something. And I felt like I was inadequate because like you're getting all these tools. I'm pulling out the woodworks. I'm even talking to my supervisor to help you. Like, what else could be it? And so I had to sit back and say, like, it's not me. I'm not the one that's giving them the drug to take it when they're feeling a certain way. It's not my fault that they're getting access to it because I can't stop access from for everybody. But they have the tools. They know what they're supposed to do. They're adults. I keep reminding myself people are adults. Don't hold it over yourself. They just need a higher level of treatment that you're not going to provide in this agency. So,
Mm. Well, it's funny because I seen a meme actually the other day, and it was talking about how like where I'm at this space. I seen a meme and I seen a video, and you saying this, so this three-way confirmation.
all right, knock
How
on wood.
it's three-way confirmation about like how I feel like what's kind of going on with a lot of people, especially me personally. Like,
Mhm.
it's a video this girl talking about how like when God has been showing her about people, like we so quick to say like, oh, I'm cutting you off, but it ain't necessarily ain't not cutting you off completely. It's more so like I'm removing you out of this circle. You got to go to the back for a while. And I think that's kind of what you was doing. And I seen the meme that was aligning with that. They said something about like, at this point in my life, I can't be around the same people who still falling back, who still getting caught up in the same stuff,
Mhm.
who still, falling to the same temptation, same stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if I'm over here and I'm trying to be successful, and then some people naturally want to help you, I'm the type, what other people have done around me has never fully affected me. But in the same breath, you get tired of always, in your case, it's a job, so that but
Yeah.
you get tired of always being like the front runner, and you want to
Yeah.
be in a situation where you're sometimes at the lower end and want to work your way up. Because I actually got invited to this thing that I'm in now, and I'm at the lowest of the totem pole, so I'm trying to work my way up, which it ain't no competition. I'm gonna do it, but it's good to not be the one that's always like, oh, I'm doing all this, and they trying to they get
Yeah.
distracted. So I think that's good. So all right, this probably so far this season the challenge section I done had. So Ada, get a round of applause to you because you deserve it. Oh, you snapped. Okay.
Yeah. It's a
All
little
right. So
poetic.
oh. All right. So poetic justice, we going into the weekly sabbatical. And so obviously this is the time where we kind of reflect and just had a even more in-depth conversation. So with you already doing your snaps and stuff, how do you incorporate modeling into your mental health brand, the relatable counselor?
Whew. It works well because me already being a mom, a lot of women want to do both. And so to add that into like my brand, it helps them provide like extra confidence and like reassurance. Like no matter how they look, they're still beautiful. Like don't let prenatal or postpartum depression like kick your butt, which is always like kind of like our issue as women. But incorporating both is it kind of goes hand in hand, honestly. Like my motto is mother, mental health advocate, and model. So like either way, you're gonna see one or the other in the same space.
Okay. And have you had any challenges with being the relatable counselor as you are on Instagram?
Yeah, yeah. I think the biggest challenge is no offense to men, but they call on the relatable counselor side, so my professional side, but talk to me on the model side, and that instantly shuts down. Like, no. So my biggest thing is that I need the male population to not confuse the two. Like, if you want one, say one. If you want the other, say the other. But when you try to mix it in and throw a little sprinkle flirtatiousness in there, that's the quickest way to get blocked.
She ain't say unfollow, she say block.
Uh,
Now, as I said, as I said earlier, I wanted to kind of piggyback off the quote, all limitations are self-imposed. I agree with that, but then I don't, because certain things aren't self-imposed. For example, you can't help growing up in a bad environment. You didn't
Mhm,
bring it on yourself. You didn't bring on yourself, we could easily say your mindset is your limitation and you that's self-imposed. But what happens if you really have a disorder, or you really just struggle with, we talked earlier about suicide, self-worth. How do you just, and I want your counseling answer, or how do you how do you do it? Like, how do you,
how do I?
Like,
Like
how do you
work
like?
through it, or
Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Like, how you pull yourself out of? I was starting to say that, and I thought you was gonna finish, but go
I was gathering your
ahead.
question. Um, I think the hardest part is that not living up to that mental health stigma and finding out if you have that disorder, because as a people we don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's fearful behind it. You think that, oh, if you finally get diagnosed with like anxiety, depression, bipolar, whatever the case may be, which is like some of our biggest things, it's like, do I gotta take medication? Am I gonna lose certain rights? Are people gonna look at me like I'm crazy? Do I gotta go to a hospital? I don't know how many times people tell me off the rip that are black that say, are you going to send me away? No, I'm not. I'm gonna help you. It's okay. And so I think that mental aspect of, you can fight past the self-worth and depression and everything, and even those suicidal thoughts, but you have to want to get help first. Like, that's like the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And not like just straight up barbershop talk and vent sessions. You need more than that. Like, that's what men do. Y'all do the barbershop talk and get your hair cut. Yeah, man, I'm going through this and this and this and this and this. Sit there for 45 minutes, dab up and think that's it. That's not it. That's not it.
No, I mean, even with that, like, I've always had different groups of friends, but like I have my main group, they're really not the friends for those conversations. Like, they're
Hmm.
actually, the ones that make those. They sound like those misogynistic podcasts people be talking about. Like, they sound like them. So I'll be
Yeah.
like, and I'll be like, but I don't say nothing. I just let them have it. But I'll be like, no, I don't think that's it.
See, those are my party friends, my out social friends. I
Yeah,
don't bring those big mental problems to, but my problems like this, I have my village of friends, and them, I'll be, all right, y'all, I'm finna run into a wall. Like, this is going on. But them friends you got, no.
yeah,
Mm-mm.
no, they just for what they are. So, as always, y'all got some tips. So, for you may say like you struggle with limitations, or you feel like you have too many, or you feel like you don't know how to get over them. We have a licensed professional on today, and I got some tips that I researched. So, I'm gonna run them by, and she gonna let me know if there's a good one or if that one, like, I don't know about that one. So, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, it says the first is to seek support from others. Social support can play a key role in overcoming limitations, improving mental health. According to the National Alliance on Mental Illness, having a strong support system can help you cope with challenging situations, lower your stress levels, and improve your overall mental health. And then, additionally, a blog on the Mighty States, finding a supportive community of people who understand what you're going through can be incredibly empowering. So I'm sure she's gonna say that's a good one because we just said it. So
Yes, literally having two minimum good support friends for everything, especially the dark stuff, for sure.
the second one says practice self-compassion. This is the practice of treating oneself with kindness, care, and understanding. A study published in a Journal of Positive Psychology found that self-compassion can increase self-esteem and reduce negative emotions such as anxiety and depression.
Hmm.
I'm gonna be honest, I do that better, but I'm still not the best at it. I feel like I'm a little too hard on myself in a lot of areas. And this is my own personal thing, so y'all don't have to take this. This wasn't part of the script, but I'm a little delusional, and so like I will hype myself up and gas myself up even when it wasn't true, and then it like started to become true a little bit. So I'm like, look, that
See,
ain't
you
no,
the folks that talk yourself into these scenarios and situations. That's delusional. You said it.
but it's the good kind. It's not like I'm not about to go jump off my balcony and say, "Oh, I can fly." I ain't like that. Well, it's just like, but here's another delusion.
uh,
Because as you talked about earlier, like we as black people, especially black men, they go to the barbershop and they
hmm.
feel like if they ignore their mental health, it doesn't exist. Now, years
Yes.
ago, I had a mouse, right? And wait. And not a pet mouse, like how your mouse will come in or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And no, I don't want no pet critters. Now I do a dog, but I ain't doing no pet mouse. So I had seen the traits of it, and one day I had heard like some noise and it sounded weird.
Mhm.
So like how people do with their mental health, I just said I'm gonna ignore it, and then
Maybe
maybe
disappear.
maybe I said maybe I'm tripping.
Yeah.
Come in the house one day, minding my business. I'm going in and out the kitchen. I turn around. That mug ran from out the under the stove. I ran the other way and I jumped up on the chair like them elephants on Looney Tunes. I was out of it. Like I really was on that chair for like 10 minutes. I was just like, now obviously I never saw it again. So that's a good thing. But
That's not how
don't be
mental
like
health
me.
works.
Huh?
So that's not how mental health works. You're gonna see it again.
But that's what I'm saying, because in most cases with a mouse, you're going to see it again unless you set up
Yeah.
something. So in that case, I'm making the analogy of have some traps, have some things set in
Mm-hmm.
place. So when those thoughts may come back, or some of those triggers may come back, or address the problem instead of just trying to ignore it. Because I think men, and not even just black men, but men as a
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
gender, just do that. And yeah, that ain't helping. So then the third one says reframing challenges as opportunities. It says reframing challenges as opportunities for growth and learning can help shift our mindset and increase our motivation. According to a study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, people who view setbacks as opportunities for personal growth were more likely to overcome them and achieve them. A blog on Happify explains by reframing challenges as opportunities, we can approach them with a sense of curiosity and optimism rather than fear and avoidance. So, you know,
Yeah, mind remapping for sure.
laughing in the face of danger. That's what Simba used to do.
Hold on, don't laugh in the face of danger because danger's still gonna be there and it may move quickly. But laugh on
Wait.
the sidewalk at danger. Don't be in the streets with it.
Look, they say you seen this. You seen a meme before. It said, "I make sidewalks for y'all, for people like y'all, because the streets ain't for everybody."
That's it right
So,
there.
all right, last one. Take a small step towards a goal. What advice? So that's the last one. That's simple. It's just taking small steps towards a goal. I'm really big on that. I actually ain't gonna lie, y'all. Hold me accountable. I fell off on that. I was doing like having my daily goals, like 3 to 5 a day, and I didn't fell off big time. I ain't done it in like weeks, so I need to get back on that. I mentally have them up here, but I want to get back to writing them out, because they did say 40%. When you write them out, there's a 40% higher chance that you're gonna do everything.
Yes, you took the words out of my mouth. If you and I do this all the time, especially if I'm like preparing to fast, if you write out your goals, like just the ones you see like short term, so say you want to hit something like in 3 months or whatever, just write them once and just circle them. Every time you circle them, it's like a self reminder, and you're visually seeing it, and you're tapping into fruition. You start walking in that manner to actually it coming true. So yeah, no, if you don't write them every day, just write it once and circle them.
For sure. Even with them piggyback off that with fasting, y'all, like it's obviously a biblical principle, but
Hmm.
it has so fasting. I really learned that a lot last year. It just brings a lot of clarity,
Hmm.
um, insight. I feel like you can sometimes, not always, but in some cases, you start getting signs, and you praying for certain things. You start getting like crazy confirmations. It also helps with food addictions and like controlling, because a lot of times you don't be hungry like you think you do. It'd be a mental thing. And when I had went through my second round of losing weight, I did a lot of intermittent fasting, and I saw results from that, even with that too. So I would suggest that y'all do practice that, just because it has a lot of great effects on the body. So now, what advice do you have for people who may be hesitant to seek mental health, for whatever issues that they have, especially in the communities like ours?
Don't be afraid, and don't announce it. Make sure it's for
Mm.
you, something that you actually want to do. Because when you announce it to people, that's when you bring in other opinions, and that's when you kind of deter from that path that you were creating. That's actually positive for yourself. So don't be afraid. Don't announce it. There are several avenues to get free mental health, or at least on a sliding scale that you pay like $75 or less for per session. Um, be open. It's not a test. No one's like just writing stuff down to just purely diagnose you, because it's literally for you to know more about yourself and underlying issues or subconscious issues that you never thought was ever an issue before until then. There's more than one way to tackle mental health. There's different theories, so I'm not gonna say try them all, but if you look, don't try them all. But if you need to, if you have an issue to where you have these memories, but the emotions don't tap in, try somatic or EMDR or even hypnosis. Like there are several ways to do it. There are holistic ways to do it as well for those who are into that. And then there are also those that are Christian based, if that's what you need as well to tap into your sessions so it can make sense for you. So there are different avenues. It's not just one way, just be open and be vulnerable. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's not like you're going to change therapists every other week like class. Like it's literally one person until you're ready to end it.
Yeah, I think even with that too, before we move into the final segment, just picking back
Mm-hmm.
off everything so far, and like I really think like with our limitations and like with things, I do believe in some cases we were put in those situations, whether some obviously are self-imposed. I don't believe all are. I believe that some are self-imposed, some we just was, happened to us. But I
Mm-hmm.
do believe that in everything that we do, if we point back to why it happened and why it was allowed to happen, I believe that we'll see that we know that we can't do everything in our own power. And whether, like I said, that's obviously the highest one, which is God, of course. But then after that, the community too, like you don't have to do everything in your own strength. And I think when you really learn that, then you're having, and again, I've said it before, actually several times this season so far, that our generation was taught, like, I don't need nobody, it's just me. And
Mm-hmm.
that's actually not helpful because, as I said on episode 1, and I'm saying now on episode 5, let me know where that's gotten you. And I know you can't because it ain't gotten you nowhere. So keep that in mind. And that ain't shade. I mean, it is, but it ain't, if that makes sense. So keep that in mind. All right, y'all. So let's finally move into the final segment for the day. Segment is called Limitations, Limitations. Okay, and for this game, I'm gonna name a few scenarios, and I want you to
Mm-hmm.
tell me whether or not this person is limited or they not as limited as they think they are.
Okay.
All right, so the first one. Person born into a wealthy family and has all the resources and opportunity they could ever need, but struggles with anxiety and a lack of self confidence, which limits their ability to pursue their passions and achieve their goals. That's a hard one, I know.
They have limits, but not it's not that deep. The limit in that situation will most likely be a poor connection with the parents and them wanting to they're pushing or projecting off what they want the child to do and how they want the child to live and stuff like that. So that can cause anxiety and depression because they're not living up to their parents' standards. So there's a slight limit, but that could be fixed with some communication and counseling for sure.
All right. Person grows up in a low income community with limited resources and access to quality education, but is able to overcome these obstacles through their determination and hard work and became a successful entrepreneur.
Ting.
That's funny.
Just saying. Just saying. I mean, it's true. So there's a
And
limit, but you can overpower it for sure.
a person experiencing discrimination based on their gender identity, limiting their job opportunities and social interactions.
Limit.
For sure.
There's a limit because I mean our community in general is still not open up to that.
Honestly, I don't think in reality, you just say it's us. I think it's everybody still. I mean, of course, they have, you know, their they have their communities,
Mhm.
obviously, but
Yeah.
I don't the white people ain't in for it either.
No, trust living out here, they got that drag bill going on, so I know they're not for it. They don't want their kids exposed to it. So I mean, at the end of the day, it's new in general within this last decade of winning those type of rights and that visibility. By all means, go for it. So naturally, it's going to be some hesitation behind it. So
A person has a physical disability that makes it difficult to perform certain tasks, but through technology and assistive devices, they are able to live independently and pursue their interests.
Um, half and half. There's still that physical limit, but otherwise, there's no limit.
All right. So a person has a passion for a particular field or activity, but due to their family's expectation and pressure to pursue a more lucrative career, they feel limited in their ability to pursue their true interests.
No limit. Screw your parents.
All right, so that's funny.
I mean, am I wrong?
And this is coming from a parent. All right.
Right. I mean, if Zach woke up and tells me, "Hey, I want to be a dinosaur," go for it, buddy. Like, because at the end of the day, you have to look yourself in the mirror. It's your life. If you're gonna keep living up to my standards and it's not working, choose you.
For
So,
sure. Absolutely. All right, y'all. So let's move into the question and challenge for the week. Remember, I love the participation this season. Keep it going. You win money. And what areas do you feel the most limited and why? Now, again, it's anonymous. You don't have to tell me. I mean, you don't have to, you're not going to be, your name is not going to be shown, but tell me where you feel more limited and why. And I'll definitely share mine too. So we didn't had a great episode. Anything you want to share with the people before you leave? Of course, your Instagram and y'all your socials will be on everything. But anything else you want to share?
yeah, I don't mind the socials and stuff, but if you need help finding a therapist, let me know. If you need help with second chances, as far as like you have a felony or misdemeanor in your background, I can help with that as well. If you want to get a halfway house, jobs, whatever, just come find me. I just cannot contact people on the inside for you. I like my job. Okay.
All right, y'all. So that's all we got for today. Next week, another hot fire episode. Appreciate you, Manny, for pulling up on us, even though it was virtual. But PSA signing out. Always remember, keep your head up like your neck hurt. Remember who you are. Make your mind up. Don't let it make you.